T.S. Eliot, one of the greatest poets of the 20th century, when worrying about the state of the world after World War I, predicted in his poem, The Hollow Men, "This is the way the Mega Man X franchise ends, not with a bang, but a whimper." Well, was his prediction right? Is Mega Man X8 seemingly the game that ended the X series, a bang or a whimper? Well, after spending almost 3 years playing and reviewing every classic series Mega Man game and X series Mega Man game, I've arrived at this moment. It's time to review Mega Man X8. And as we get into this, I do want to mention that there will be full spoilers for the Mega Man X series, Mega Man X8, and probably just the Mega Man series in general. Here's how I'm dividing up my thoughts to give the most comprehensive review of Mega Man X8. About 10% of what I'm going to consider when reviewing Mega Man X8 is the context in which this game exists, both as a historical piece of video game history and the context it exists in our modern gaming landscape, where we can buy it on pretty much every console, and just kind of where it is in terms of the broader series and gaming in general. And then about 25% of my thoughts in this review are going to be directed towards the game's presentation, its graphics and its music, and how much fun you can have as a gamer just kind of looking at and listening to Mega Man X8. I'm very into the vibe of the Mega Man series, and the deeper I've gotten into reviewing these games, the more important it's been to me to really just enjoy the music and the presentation of these games. So I weigh it pretty heavily when writing the review for Mega Man X8. Then about 60% of my thoughts and considerations will be at the core gameplay. I'll consider the combat, the level design, the progression, and the overall feeling of playing Mega Man X8. That's the biggest thing I consider when ultimately deciding if a game is good or bad, is just how much fun is it to play. A game can get pretty far with just vibes or really interesting context, but you can't really have a passing grade if it's not fun to play. And then lastly, about 5% of my review will be my own personal bias or nostalgia towards this game or the era it came out in, or just Mega Man in general. So with all that being said, let's consider the context in which Mega Man X8 exists. Mega Man X8 launched in the United States in December of 2004, and a few months later everywhere else. It's really the last AAA Mega Man game, meaning that this is the last time a Mega Man game was a big budget modern release on a home console. After this, Mega Man 9 would turn the series in a bit of a more retro or maybe even indie direction, as before people were really calling those kind of games indie games, but it's definitely more in that kind of ballpark rather than a AAA game. And though Mega Man 11 came out on hardware that was new at the time, it wasn't really cutting edge in terms of its presentation or its marketing. So I wouldn't really say Mega Man 11 feels AAA, especially if you compare it to Capcom's legitimate AAA releases like Resident Evil or Monster Hunter. Yeah, I would say that Mega Man X8 is really the last time that Capcom put all their effort into making a big AAA Mega Man game. Late 2004 and early 2005 were some of the most competitive times in the video game industry, and in the US, Mega Man X8 launched into a holiday window against Halo 2 and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the home consoles, and Half-Life 2 on the PC in November. So this was a very competitive time for any game to enter the market, but it's an extra competitive time for a game like Mega Man X8, considering that the people who were children during the Mega Man series beginnings, either the X series or the classic series, were now either young adults or teenagers. So this is just kind of a perfect storm for Mega Man X8 to kind of enter this situation where a lot of people have grown up with the series but maybe are disinterested in it, and there are some true all-time classic games coming out that Mega Man X8 had to compete against. Now, Mega Man X8 also had to compete against plenty of Mega Man games. If you look at that year, we saw 03, Mega Man X Command Mission, and another Battle Network game come out. Particularly 03, I think, actually was serious competition for this game. Mega Man X7 had come out previously and was awful, and fans of the Mega Man X series probably were more and more migrating towards the Zero series. I remember a friend of mine that was also a Mega Man fan at the time. He was really into the Zero series, and I don't remember him even mentioning Mega Man X8. Now, the biggest problem for Mega Man X8, I think, in terms of its context, where it sits in video game history, is actually Capcom itself releasing Devil May Cry 3 and Resident Evil 4 just around the corner in early 2005. Those two games are action gaming classics. They're two games that many people hold in high regard as some of the best games ever made. Resident Evil 4 influenced basically every action shooter game after it, and Devil May Cry 3 is a high mark for the character action series games. And it's interesting because you got the sword fighting, gun fighting combat of a character like Zero, represented by Dante in the Devil May Cry series, and then you have a dude running around shooting and getting new guns, kind of representing X in Resident Evil 4. People that had grown up playing Capcom action games were more than satisfied with those two games. And so Mega Man X8 didn't have a chance to really have legs. You know, it would have been overshadowed no matter what in the 2004 holiday season, but then maybe in the rental market, or, you know, fans just looking for more Capcom action games, it might have found legs if it wasn't released, you know, right before these two all-time classic games. So there's just competition everywhere. And as I get more into it, you see that Mega Man X8 didn't really compete well against some of these more modern games. Now, if you look at our modern gaming context, the way that people like retro games and talk about the Mega Man series, Mega Man X8 is rarely ever mentioned. It seems almost forgotten. It seems that X7, you know, rightfully has the distinction of being the worst, and then X6 has the distinction of being, you know, maybe awful, but also really weird and quirky. And then X3 and X4 seem to have the status of being like the hidden gems, the ones that players looking for something a little less talked about are really excited about. X8 just kind of gets swept under the rug and kind of forgotten about, which, you know, is kind of sad because I do love the Mega Man series and want it to do well, and it's a bummer that this big release that's the last of the X series games is, you know, relatively forgotten about. It's also worth noting in our modern gaming context that you can buy Mega Man X8 on just about everything. The X series collections are readily available. I'm playing it on Nintendo Switch, but I think you can play it on pretty much every modern gaming piece of hardware. And so you think that this game might be more popular than ever, but again, it just seems kind of overshadowed, not just by the other games in the collection, but just other games in the Mega Man series and other retro games. You hear a lot about people nostalgically going back to this console generation, playing PS2, Xbox, and GameCube games, and X8 is never mentioned to my knowledge in any YouTube videos that I've seen. Mega Man X8 was forgotten about in its historical context when it was released, and it seems to still be forgotten in the context of our modern gaming landscape, which I think does add a little bit of value to the game, especially for someone like me who is a Mega Man fan. It's fun to finally play this game that is kind of mysterious. It's kind of lost in terms of its identity and in terms of people caring about it. Now, as I start to talk about the presentation, I'm going to kind of mix it a little bit with the context because I do want to talk about the people who worked on X8 and kind of speculate on how it affected the presentation. Notably, a lot of the people that have worked on a bunch of Mega Man games don't seem to be present for Mega Man X8. It seems like a new cast of characters, and the director was a guy named Iro Shirahama, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, who seems to have more of a background in horror games, notably a Resident Evil spin-off and a strange horror game called Gregory Horror Show. So Capcom didn't bring in a guy with, you know, a lot of seemingly arcade experience or retro Mega Man experience. This is a new person with a new perspective, and it's interesting to think about. It makes sense considering that the Mega Man X series was still trying to and having false starts with switching over to a polygon art style. And Gregory Horror Show in particular does have a unique 3D polygon style. So Capcom probably thought that maybe this unique perspective would be helpful for making the Mega Man X series take the next step. Now, when we talk about the presentation of Mega Man X8, we also got to talk about Tatsuya Yoshikawa, and again, I do apologize if I pronounced that wrong. He became the main artist for Mega Man X8, and he's a longtime Capcom artist, but he didn't work on previous Mega Man games. He worked on the Breath of Fire series, and for fans who are really into the Mega Man games, you can immediately tell in the character portraits and the box art and a lot of the art to go along with Mega Man X8 that this game has a very different style. Yoshikawa brought a very unique anime aesthetic to Mega Man X8, just like he did for the Breath of Fire series, and I personally love it. I think it looks really cool. I love the concept art. I love that they mix things up. It's still definitely Mega Man X, like you can tell that it's still the X series, but it is just very fresh. It's very unique to the series, and it just has a great expressiveness to it. All the characters have cool faces and cool expressions. They look more serious when they're serious. They look more high energy when they need to have more energy, and I just thought it was a great move. I think that Capcom really spiced things up by bringing in that artist, and he's a great artist, very iconic style, and it looks great here. Now, here's where things get kind of odd. That artist had worked on Breath of Fire Dragon's Quarter for the PS2 that had come out 2 years before, and you can see that his art style is very well translated into the game. The PS2 definitely had the capabilities of making more high detailed polygon characters, and so it's definitely in the cards for Mega Man X8 to look more like the art style of the concept art. But Mega Man X8 doesn't look like that. Mega Man X8 has a very unique style in its gameplay, and at first I thought it was bland, but the more I looked at it, the more my perspective on it changed. You'll notice that X is a little more lanky, Zero's a little more lanky, Axel's a little more lanky. None of the characters have that cel-shaded style that was popular at the time, especially with anime style games. They just have the normal, simple polygon style, and it's not the rough textures or simple shapes of the Nintendo 64 or PlayStation 1 era, and it's not the really high detailed, highly colorful style that you'd see on the GameCube or the PS2 or the Xbox. It sits in the middle, and I think Mega Man X8 looks like a Dreamcast game. I think that it is a very unique style. They move more fluidly as characters than they would have on the PS2, but they're not, more realistic like an Xbox game or more cartoony like a GameCube or PS2 game. It's this very distinct style, and I like it. I think it really makes Mega Man X8 stand out. It does definitely clash with the concept art, but it really grew on me. The more I played this game, the more I did like the style of the graphics. That being said, I wonder if it was intentional or not. I wonder if they kind of ran out of time and this is the best they could do, or from the beginning they said, hey, we're not going to go cel-shaded and cartoony like a lot of other action games at this time, and we're not going to go super realistic like something, say, Halo or Resident Evil 4. It's going to be this kind of middle of the ground art style. I think, unfortunately for them, it definitely made the game look more bland at first glance, so a lot of people might have not really liked the way this game looked when it came out. But I think in the long run, it does make the game stand out. It looks cool. And again, I just think it has that Dreamcast style to it. If you told me that Mega Man X8 released alongside Power Stone, I would totally believe you, because it's just got that style to it. The characters move fast, they're well animated, but they're also a little bit lower detailed than what you would see on the PS2, but definitely more detailed and more crisp than what you'd see on the PlayStation 1. Now, going deeper into the presentation of the game, let's talk about the music a little bit. We do have some returning composers for this game. There's 3 composers credited on the fandom website. We've got Yuko Komiyama, Naoto Tanaka, and Shinya Okada. And again, I apologize if I pronounce any of those wrong. Notably, Naoto Tanaka comes back to the X series after working on X5, X6, and X7, and then the other 2 seem to be getting their start more at Capcom as composers. Yuko Komiyama worked on X7, and Shinya Okada also worked on X7. That's his first credit if you look at his fandom webpage. So they're two younger composers, and then Naoto Tanaka seems like he's been around a little bit more. And you know, I make no secret about it, I love the X6 soundtrack. I did not like the X7 soundtrack, and so it's interesting to see him come back. I will say that I like this soundtrack. I think that the X8 soundtrack turned out pretty good. What's really notable about it is that it's very much a prog rock soundtrack with a lot of real sounding guitar in it. And I think it's the soundtrack that the X series kind of always wanted. The X series never made any secrets about being influenced by prog rock or 80s style, you know, music. And here with X8, there is that real prog rock guitar driven music. And I think overall it comes together. There's some standout tracks that are really catchy and fun. There's also some more moody melodic moments, like when you're at the save screen, that really reminded me of the save room in Resident Evil. I think it's just a fun soundtrack. Overall, it's good. There are some moments that are a little bit more bland or boring, but I think it's cool that they had the real guitar on the soundtrack. And in the X series in general, it's kind of fun to finally hear, you know, the prog rock that the series always wanted. So I'd say overall it is a good soundtrack. They did a good job. They just keep the energy up overall. It's just like a go, go, go kind of soundtrack. Now there is one level where you're sneaking around trying to not get spotted by these spotlights, and that's also when the music's a little more moody, so they adjust it when it's needed. Overall though, I would say it's good music. Staying on the sound side of the presentation, I'll mention that there is a lot of voice acting in this game, and overall it is good. None of it stood out as bad or cringy as other Mega Man voice acting moments that we've heard. None of it was stunning or breathtaking or super exciting, but it's professional and it sounds good. This is an era where they'd really figured out voice acting, I think, and the shockingly bad voice acting of the 90s was over. And so it's the presentation overall just improved on the sound front. The music is good and the voice acting is good, especially after X7, which was just abysmal. The music was super boring and the voice acting felt cringy from time to time. They definitely stepped up the presentation in this game a lot. I do want to quickly mention here that if you want to support the channel, I am making my own video game called Ogre Man. It is inspired by all the time I've spent playing these Mega Man games, and so I think I'm making something that a lot of Mega Man fans could really appreciate. The demo is available for you to play in the browser, no download necessary, on itch.io. So if you want to support the channel, please check out the demo and please wishlist Ogre Man on Steam. There are links in the description, and I'd really appreciate you supporting my game. Alright, now let's start talking about the gameplay of Mega Man X8, and we'll start with the controls. Aside from a couple rail sections, the whole game is a 2D action platformer set in a 3D world with a camera that rotates a couple times. I must have not been the only person that felt that the controls in X7 were floaty and loose, because Mega Man X8 feels snappy and fast. X0 and Axel all feel very heavy and quick. For the most part, the controls are exactly what you would expect from an X game, but there are a few notable things. You pick two characters at the start of each level rather than just one, and you can switch between them with a shoulder button, kind of like a tag team member in a fighting game. If both of your characters are alive and the gauge is full, you can unleash a combo attack with another shoulder button that triggers a cutscene if it lands. X also has a button that is dedicated to shooting special attacks, so you can shoot his standard buster while you have the special attack equipped. Axel can shoot in multiple directions with the D-pad, and he can briefly hover in the air. Zero has melee attacks and can double jump, similar to what he could do in previous games. The dreaded auto-aim is gone from Mega Man X7, so hooray about that. And aiming feels as natural as it did in the rest of the Mega Man X series. Overall, the controls are good. They take a little bit of getting used to, since the overall feeling just is a little bit different than the sprite-based games, and then the 3D camera does adjust a little bit. It comes in and out or tilts a little bit here and there, but you can get used to it. I would compare it to playing the Donkey Kong Country Returns or Tropical Freeze games after playing the Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country games. The modern games, the Return game and the Tropical Freeze game, are still good games and they feel very close to the original, but there are some distinct differences. But once you get used to it, it's really fun. And so that's how I feel about this game. It is distinct from the pixelated Mega Man X series games. but it definitely will click with you if you give it some time, and it's nothing like X7, which just felt awful to control. So now let's take a second to look at the broader layout of the game. At first glance, it looks like it's back to basics. You get an intro level and then your 8 boss robots to pick from. Side note, I'll be referring to the levels by the boss name, but the level name itself is actually what's displayed when you highlight the levels in the game. But I'm just going to go by the boss name because that's how I've talked about the levels in previous Mega Man games, and that's how the guide I was using referred to the levels. So the intro level is notable for a couple reasons. First of all, it's very difficult. Enemies hit really hard in Mega Man X8. I died a couple times in the first level. Small mistakes are super punishing, especially early before you've built up your players. And so the level itself is cool, and I kind of liked being hit with this hard challenge after playing all these Mega Man games. You wind up chasing this giant robot crab spider thing, and you get a little bit of time with each character where you kind of have a mandatory switch between each one, so the game forces you to kind of try out all 3 of the characters. As previously noted, they're all different from each other, and I died multiple times. It's definitely hard. I've reviewed nearly 20 Mega Man games, and so it was kind of shocking to be like, wow, this is a really challenging first level. The end of the first level will introduce you to the combo attack, where you use both of your characters to kind of create a little bubble around your player character, and then you go into like a 3D Matrix style cutscene where they unleash a super attack against whoever is being hit by the combo attack. And it's very clear that you are expected to use this attack. It's really powerful, and the game expects you to use it in challenging situations, so it's definitely a new wrinkle to the gameplay. It's also worth noting that a lot of Mega Man X games start with a giant robot in the first level, and so it's kind of cool that this game keeps that tradition going with this giant crab monster. Now, back to the broader design, you go to picking levels just like other Mega Man games. This game also has an upgrade shop that you use to upgrade your characters, and more than any other Mega Man game that I've played, you're really expected to use the upgrade shop. You need to spend a lot of time in there. You can upgrade your health. You can even get retry chips that are essentially this game's version of extra lives. You don't pick up extra lives throughout the level. You pick up currency that you can use to buy these retry chips. It definitely changes the flow of the game. You wind up spending a lot more time in the item shop going through menus. There's also no E-tanks, so again, just purchasing any kind of upgrade or any kind of advantage pushes you back into that shop where you buy things. It's not particularly grindy or anything like that, but there were a few times where I ran low on chips and had to go out and get some to buy what I needed. And overall, I didn't really like spending so much time menuing, as I'll call it. If you beat a level, you're gonna have to save, you're gonna have to go to the item shop, you're gonna have to buy more retry chips to make sure that you have the maximum amount of tries at the next level, and then you go through to pick your next level, and then when you pick a level, you also pick which characters you're gonna use. So if it sounds like a lot of menuing, it is. It's also worth noting that you pick a different operator person to talk to on your radio. Aaliyah is back from the previous X games, but there also are characters named Layer and Palette. So it's a lot of options, and players that like a lot of options and like to do everything in a game will probably be into all of this. I don't want to say I hated it. I didn't hate it, but I do like that the Mega Man series just feels concise when it's at its best. It feels very distilled down to the fun moments. And if I look back at a game like Mega Man X, the first game in the X series, there's a lot going on in that game. You can upgrade Mega Man, you can get a lot of different weapons for him and E-tanks, but you're not going through menus on menus on menus to, figure out how to use your character. And so this game kind of takes it to an extreme, at least in terms of the Mega Man series. It's not like an RPG or anything like that where you're just going through tons and tons of menus. But again, I call it menuing. You do a lot of menuing in this game in between levels, and it does kind of break up the flow a little bit. During my playthrough, for about 99% of the time, I stuck with X and Zero as my playable characters and Aaliyah as my navigator. I felt a little bit overwhelmed by all the options, and I just don't really like Axel. He's just never clicked with me. And the other two operators, I didn't see any real reason to use them. Reflecting back on all of this, again, the item shop, the different operators, the 3 different characters, the combo attack, You can tell that there's a lot of new ideas here in Mega Man X8. They were definitely trying. You can't really fault this game for a lack of effort because it's just all in on the effort. A new artist and a new style to the music with the guitar and all of the options available to the players. They really did go all out to make this game feel ambitious, and it does feel ambitious. But it also does feel a little bit bloated, honestly, as I go through all these menus and look at all this different stuff. Now let's look at the level design, and I do want to mention that I used a guide to pick the boss orders and the different weapons correctly against the bosses. It's something I do with all the Mega Man games. I kind of streamline my experience that way. So I started with Bamboo Pandemonium's level. It's a decent level. It's got ride armor and multiple routes and a Dr. Light capsule. It definitely feels like a traditional Mega Man X series level, which feels great after playing Mega Man X7. It's definitely nice to go back to a level like this that just feels really good and really kind of immediate with its gameplay. Now, what did stand out to me is the same thing that stood out in the intro level is you die really quickly in this game. Taking a couple hits here and there, you can really be punished for it, and especially considering you want both of your characters to be alive to use that combo attack, it's a challenge. Right out of the gate, I felt a lot of pressure to really kind of step up my gameplay in this one. The boss fight against Panda Pandemonium is pretty easy, but I think this is kind of meant to be the Show Penguin style boss fight for Mega Man X8. Next up, I went to Optic Sunflower's level. This level has a really unique system where you go into short rooms for challenges, and then depending on how you do, you get locked into different tiers that are represented by dots on the elevator. I do really like that it's a unique idea, and some of the challenges are really fun and interesting. What I don't really like about it is the pacing. You wind up, in an elevator quite a bit and waiting more than I would like. In bite-sized chunks, it's not that bad, but when you consider that Mega Man X8, like other Mega Man games, is a pretty short game, having a level where you spend multiple chunks of it in an elevator looking at dots on the wall is not the best idea. But overall, I definitely wouldn't say I hated this level. I like that it reminded me of Cyber Peacock's level in Mega Man X4, which also had bite-sized chunks in it. And the boss fight and the level itself are pretty challenging, and I had a good time playing through this one. I do want to mention now that the Anniversary Collection has Rookie Hunter mode, which, if you're not familiar, is a setting that you can turn on to deal more damage and take less damage yourself. I didn't use it very much in this game, but I did use it here and there if I found myself stuck or replaying a chunk over and over again. I don't think I actually used it on this level, but I just have it mentioned here in my notes, so I'll just let you know that I did use it a little bit in this game. Also, I want to mention that in this level, there's a hidden boss fight against Cutman, and that's pretty cool. I didn't do what I needed to do to find the Cutman fight, but I watched it on YouTube, and it's kind of cool that that's hidden away for players to find in Mega Man X8. Next up, I chose Dark Mantis's stage. There's some relatively normal action platforming moments in this level, though it's worth noting that there are fans that you need to walk through. From a gameplay standpoint, it's a pretty simple moment. You just time your walk to go through the area where the fans are at when the fans won't hit you. But it's worth noting because it utilizes the game's 2.5D style quite a bit. The camera tilts so you can see where the 3D cameras are. So it's kind of a 2D interaction within 3D space. It's interesting, and I just wanted to note it here that it's something that you really couldn't do on the previous pixelated style Mega Man X games. Now, this level has a cool gimmick where later on you're trying to get past these lights, and if you trip the lights, a bunch of enemies will rush you. I also want to mention that I ran into Vile in this game. Vile from the classic Mega Man X games is back, and it's cool to see him. He seems to randomly pop up in this game, so if you die or get a game over on a level where you've seen him, you might not see him in that level again, and you can fight him. And I think this is a cool idea, Vile kind of taunting you. He's kind of being his normal, obnoxious self, saying rude things and showing up, but it kind of fits his character that he just kind of pops up when he can to make things harder for you. Now, the boss fight here is pretty simple. If you use the light snowflake attack on him, he seems to just kind of crumple up like a piece of paper, which is kind of fun. I do like when the boss attack is really effective and you can kind of use the right weapons against the bosses. So I overall like this level. It was kind of a cool one with a cool gimmick, and it's kind of fun to bump into Vile. Now, I do want to mention here that there is a problem developing in Mega Man X8 that's going to be a much bigger problem as I go on through this review, and that's the pacing. The best X series games have very snappy pacing, notably Mega Man X1, where you're going to new places, moving through the levels really quick, running into dynamic challenges that are very different, and just kind of moving at your own pace. And there's other X games like X4, I would say, also really emulate this style where you're being quick and keeping the pace up. And it's not bad for a game to be a slower paced game. The problem is that these games are also short. They're meant to be concise. Mega Man is at its best when each level is distinct and concise and works both on its own as a level, but also works as part of the broader game. Now, pacing is hard in a game like this from a design standpoint because the players are picking the levels themselves. And so the ups and downs of, faster paced levels versus slower paced levels is hard to figure out. And in this game, right out of the gate, I encountered multiple moments where I was waiting for an elevator or waiting for a spotlight and then getting delayed by things. And none of those are really big problems taken in a vacuum. But when you look at the broader game and kind of look at what's happening, again, you want the pacing to be fast in a game that is short. You want it to be an action-packed kind of game. And the pacing really is going to become an issue more and more as we get deeper into Mega Man X8. Next, I went to Gravity Anteons level. This is probably my favorite level in the game. It has a puzzle-like system where you shoot these switches and it rotates the level around. And you got to be careful because there are some tricky moments where the blocks can fall on you or you can get yourself in danger. And I just thought this was super creative and super cool. It's something that even amongst a lot of action platforming games, I haven't seen a lot of rotating levels like this, so I really liked it. Also, the music was really good in this level. This level has a really funky, kind of fun song in it, and so it wound up being one of my favorite levels in the game. Then I moved on to Earth Rock Trilobite, and here is where those ugly pacing issues really started catching up to the game. You spend a big portion of the level essentially auto-scrolling as you get chased by a giant robot, and then you chase the giant robot back through the level. Backtracking can be really hard to do effectively in a game to make it fun to go back through an area, and it's a bad design choice to have the player immediately backtrack through the area they were just in. Now, if backtracking through an area you were immediately in isn't bad enough, it's also slowed down by the robot itself. Auto-scrolling levels are tricky. I like shmup-style games with auto-scrolling, if they're densely packed and fun. I don't really like auto-scrolling when it feels sluggish, and here it just feels sluggish and kind of really does affect the pace of the game. Once you get back to the beginning of the level, after running from the robot and dealing with all that, then you have to fight the robot. And it's a really interesting kind of fight because the camera swings in a 3D style as you go along this platform, and then you trigger something to swing down and hit the robot on each side. It's overall not a fun fight. The camera kind of made me feel kind of dizzy, and it's really simple. You just get to the end and trigger the thing to swing back and hit the robot, but it feels slow. And again, after already running after and running from the robot, then you're doing this. It's just overall not a great level. Now, I died in Earth Rock Trilobite's level and was prompted to spend some time in the upgrade shop, poking around, and I wound up significantly increasing my health by spending my chips, which is cool that you can get better as a character, but I really underestimated how essential the shop is in this game. They really do expect you to upgrade a lot of different things in this shop. Then returning back to the level, you realize that the pacing is even worse because now I'm waiting for the robot again and had just spent a bunch of time in the menus of the upgrading shop. It's, again, not the most free-flowing, not the most fun way to pace your game. I also want to mention that going in and out of the levels, at this point I triggered a mission that I got called into. The operators were like, oh, here's this problem that you got to go solve. I chose to do it and I went and did the mission, and I couldn't beat it. I couldn't figure it out. And again, it's an interesting idea to have random missions pop up and random moments where you bump into Vile. It's not inherently a bad thing. It kind of reminds me of Mega Man X2, where on the map you see those optional boss fights that have the parts of Zero. And some people don't like that because it kind of messes with the pacing and the order of the levels. And I think in Mega Man X2 they did it better because it's like very clearly communicated. Here's where the fights are, here's how you do it, and it is random and it is a little different. But here in Mega Man X8, all the random stuff that's happening just kind of feels that. It feels random. It doesn't feel clearly communicated or as exciting as it did in X2. So next I moved on to Gigabyte Manows level, and this level really sucked. It's probably the worst level in the game. It's on rails like some of the worst levels in Mega Man, really give me flashbacks to Mega Man 8, but this one is 3D like Star Fox or the Gummy Ship from Kingdom Hearts. I'm not opposed to rail sections, and as previously mentioned, I do like a lot of shmup games, and I love Star Fox 64, but this level just feels slapped together, and I don't like it. It just felt random. I felt like I was just zipping around randomly shooting at stuff. It felt very slowly paced. I couldn't quite get my focus on the right things. It feels slow. I think rail sections are at their best when they're dense, like a lot going on, it feels exciting. Also, it's worth noting they're at their best when they make you feel powerful. In games like Star Fox 64, you're just blowing up all sorts of things and shooting down a bunch of stuff. This feels cluttered. There's just so much visual information coming at you. It just doesn't work, and it's a bummer to have a level in a game that's relatively short that is just kind of devoid of fun, in my opinion. The boss fight is pretty cool. The boss has these robot jellyfish things that are floating around that can block your bullets, and then you can shoot lightning down on you. It's a pretty standard, fun 2D action boss fight, and I liked it a lot, especially after the 3D rail section stuff. Then I went on to Avalanche Yeti's level that somehow manages to have an even worse rail section. This one has you driving a snow speeder, and shooting is tricky because it comes out at different lengths and the jumps are really hard to time. I died a lot on this level. I wound up using rookie hunter mode because I just died over and over and over again. It feels very fast paced. It feels like death comes on you very fast when you're driving the snow speeder. And again, the shooting is weird. I want to feel empowered when I'm on the snow speeder or in some sort of flying car. I want to feel like X and Zero are stronger when they're doing these things, but instead they just feel weaker. And it just winds up not being a very fun level to fly along the snow and die over and over and over again. When you get it right and do it correctly, the level's really fast. And so it's a lose-lose situation. If you get good at this level, well, then it's too short. And if you're bad at this level, you're going to be here dying a bunch over and over and over again. The fight against Avalanche Yeti himself is actually still a fun fight. He hides in the snow, and I had a good time with this one. It's a unique idea to have the boss hiding in the snow. Kind of reminded me of the alligator in Mega Man X2 that hides in the slime. And if you're counting, that's 2 rail sections out of 6 levels. It's pretty rough when you consider that the pacing was already kind of stunted by things like the elevator or chasing and being chased by the robot. There's a lot of kind of bummer moments in Mega Man X8 in terms of pacing and in terms of just the fun kind of being down. And then you factor in the menuing, just going through the item shop. If you beat the level, you get a ranking that also takes time to click through and saving your game and all these different things. The pace here just winds up feeling significantly slower, and then a handful of the levels are significantly less fun than what you would get from the best Mega Man X game. Last, I went on to Burn Rooster's level, which is a bit of a mixed bag. There are sections in this level that are auto-scrolling. You're going down vertically and there's platforms that are rising up that you gotta land on. It's really frustrating because you spend a lot of time just waiting for things to happen. If you time the jump wrong, you fall down to your death. And then once you're done with that, you get into these kind of tight corridor platforming moments with spikes. And I did like those moments. They're kind of punishing, but I liked it, and I was welcoming the pure platforming after the rail section as you're falling on the platforms. And again, now that's 3 levels that have rail sections, 4 if you count the robot that you gotta chase. That's a lot. I bumped into Vile again in this level, and I think it's kind of cool, again, the way that he taunts you and the way that he shows up in the levels. And then lastly, you fight Burn Rooster himself, and I thought it was kind of a cool fight. He makes funny noises and kicks and breaks things in the background, and it's kind of funny that in the X-Play review of this game, they made fun of Burn Rooster, kind of nostalgic and funny for me. And so overall, not the worst level in the game, but not a great Mega Man X level in terms of the series. Once you finish all 8 of the robot boss levels, then you move on to the last chunk of the game. Now, I'm going to unpack the story a little bit more later in this review, but it is revealed at this point that Sigma is officially the villain of this game, which is kind of what you would expect. Now, it does kind of go in maybe an unexpected direction from here, but I'll unpack that a little bit more later. I took some time here to go back and pick up some things that I missed and upgrade my character. I usually don't 100% these games, but I do like to try to do most of the stuff available. Here in X8, it just feels like there's a lot going on. A lot of stuff that I left on the table, a lot of stuff that I missed. If the world was more fun to explore, if the levels were more fun, I might be more incentivized to go back and do everything, but I just kind of felt like it was a little bit of a slog, so I felt like I got enough out of just going back and getting some more light capsules and making sure I had a few more upgrades before going on to the final chunk. I also will mention here before I go on to talk about the gameplay in the last chunk of the game that you can wind up playing as Aaliyah, Lair, or Palette if you unlock them. And I think what you do is you beat the game, and the one that you use the most in that playthrough, you can buy them in the upgrade shop. I didn't wind up unlocking Aaliyah. It just took a lot of chips, and I just felt like, I had played enough of the game at that point to move on. I'm sure someone in the comments is going to let me know that, the game really starts and it gets really good once you start playing as them. That's just a lot. That's a lot to play the game multiple times and unlock these operators, especially if like something significantly better is waiting for the player at that point. I just felt like it's kind of a slog to go through and play these levels more than once, so I was ready to push on to the final chunk of the game. So in the final stretch, we ride the Jacob ladder to the moon. It's an elevator level where different enemies are ambushing you, and it's not too terrible, and it's not much different than other elevator moments we've seen in previous Mega Man games, but after multiple levels that have me waiting or stuck on rails, I didn't love this here. And we get to fight Vile at the top, and it was actually a surprisingly easy fight with Vile here at the top of the Jacob ladder. Then in the next level, we get the classic Mega Man X8 boss rush. This is a staple of the Mega Man games, the boss rush, where we get to really test our skill against these enemies that were maybe a bit daunting earlier in our playthrough. I like the extra detailed touch that when the bosses die during the boss rush, they transform into these generic Reploids, so we kind of know that it's like a copy of the bosses that we fought earlier. And then we get a face-to-face encounter with Sigma. He just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's not a particularly challenging fight, but we do notice that he turns into one of those generic Reploids when he dies, which is a clue that we might need to fight the real Sigma later on the moon. So then moving on, we go to the moon itself, and it's kind of cool. It feels very mythic. Aaliyah can't communicate with us up there, which is kind of nice. Now, moving on, we go to the moon itself to do this final stretch of the game, and it's cool. It feels kind of mythic and mysterious. Our operator on Earth can't communicate with us because we can't get any radio reception on the moon. So we fight our way through some pretty generic platforming moments, and then we reach the moon base, which kind of looks and feels like a magical castle. And when we go in, we fight Vile on ride armor. Now, this is probably the coolest Vile fight in this game because he looks cool perched on the ride armor, and thematically, I don't want to overlook that the beginning of the X series, Vile is in ride armor and he beats us. And now here at the end of the X series, Vile's on ride armor and we defeat him. And so I thought it was pretty cool. After we beat him, we move on to some really tricky platforming. There's spikes everywhere. There's these really tricky jumps that you gotta make inside of this moon castle. It's probably some of the hardest platforming I've seen in a Mega Man game. And I didn't particularly love it. It just didn't quite feel right. I feel like whoever playtested this was like a master platformer person to be able to get through this. It was a little bit too tricky for me and felt a little bit imbalanced based on what I'd seen at other points in the game. Then we reach Sigma, who looks like a mythic cyber warrior king. Then we reach Sigma, and it's a pretty cool fight. He looks like this mythic cyber warrior king, and I really liked Sigma's style here. I think I still prefer the Grim Reaper Sigma from Mega Man X4, but I definitely prefer this Sigma over the mecha anime Sigma at the end of Mega Man X7. It's a good fight. It's pretty fast-paced. He tries to box you in with the fire on the walls, and he has a downward sword strike that kind of makes you move around a lot to avoid getting hit. It's just a good, fast-paced 2D action fight. So fans of Mega Man boss fights are probably going to get a lot out of this fight. I'll unpack it a little bit more as we get into the series, but I was definitely having a little bit of series story fatigue with Sigma at this point. Then you get a cel-shaded cutscene where Lumine, a character revealed to us at the start of the game, shows that they're gonna be the real final boss. They're all creepy and they step on Sigma's head and says it's all been part of their plan. Now, the Lumine fight here at the end has two phases. The first is really similar to the Sigma fight that we just had, and it's a satisfying 2D action fight. He tries to block you in with the fire on both sides now and has a lot of different attacks, and the key to beating him is just dodging a lot, particularly dodging what comes from above. Again, it's a boss fight that longtime Mega Man fans are going to get some fun out of. It's cool. The second phase of the fight is not as good. It's very mythical and mysterious with the clouds, and it's very striking, but it's weird. All the attacks are very easily telegraphed, and Lumine spends a lot of time just holding still and letting you attack him. It's a weird way to finish the game. And then that's the end. Overall, playing through Mega Man X8 was a mixed bag. It's light years better than X7, and I can see where some real effort was put into this game, but there's some real pacing issues. The auto-scrolling levels are not very fun, and there's not a lot of levels in this game, so having multiple levels that suck really holds everything down. It's also worth mentioning that the menus in this game are everywhere. You're going to be going through menus when you beat a level to see what your ranking was. You're going to be going through menus to make sure you have the retry chips, to make sure that you can heal yourself, to make sure that you are upgrading your character's stats right. So it's just a lot more menuing. You're going to be selecting two characters and an operator at the start of every level. It's just a lot. The pacing here is just not snappy and quick like what I really like from games like Mega Man X. So overall, it's a mixed bag. Way better than X7. You know, there are some real fun moments in this game. There are some moments where you get that traditional Mega Man X style action platforming that I love, that I know a lot of you watching these videos love. So it's not a total disaster on the gameplay front. There are just some issues. The boss fights here overall were fun. There's some fun ones, but none of them stand out as like series all-time great boss fights. So all that being said, I do want to unpack the story of Mega Man X8, and there is somehow both a lot to say and not a lot to say. I'm gonna review my notes a little bit as I talk about this, but I'm gonna try to just kind of recall it as I experienced it. And so I know that Mega Man lore masters out there are probably gonna recognize things I get wrong, but I think the point that I wanna get across is that the storyline is all over the place, and someone like me who's played all the classic series, all the Mega Man X series games, should be able to just kind of take in and enjoy this storyline. And it's a very hard storyline to take in. So I'll say at the beginning, things start out pretty strong. It's very striking. There's this ladder that goes to the moon. It's a unique setting, or at least a unique technological marvel that is in this game. Kind of reminds me of the crashing space colony from Mega Man X5, that game has like a very unique problem that it's presenting. So we have this ladder that we see, and we wind up going to respond to this explosion there where this thing fell off the ladder, and we see all these Sigma clones, but then there's this weird, mysterious character, Lumine, who talks kind of like he's mythical or something, and all of these Sigmas are revealed to just be fake Sigmas. And it's really odd. It's just a really strange way to start the game. You can tell immediately, as someone who's watched anime or played 90s video games, that Lumine is evil. People who act like that and look like that and talk like that, especially around Sigma clones, are evil. And X and Zero and the gang seem to be surprised by this at the end of the game, but Lumine is very clearly evil at the beginning of the game. So we learn about new prototype Reploids that are somehow based on Axel, or at least similar to Axel, in that they can copy other Reploids and look like them and have their abilities. I think this explains why the boss rush bosses are regular Reploids that have copied the bosses. And so as you go through the boss levels, there's these talking moments between the operators and Zero and Axel and X, and you learn that they've found these chips and they found Sigma's data in the boss robots, which again is like, as someone who's played the X series at this point, I'm like, yeah, Sigma is clearly some sort of like mythical computer virus that is involved in all of these things. I don't understand why anyone's surprised, and I don't understand why any of them would be shocked that the bosses are somehow controlled by or manipulated by Sigma. So as far as I can tell, there's these evil robots. Lumine is missing. They're trying to beat these 8 robots and get Lumine back. There's also dialogue moments that seem to come up randomly. So after one level, I get this weird conversation between Layer and Zero about how Layer mentions that Zero had the Sigma virus in him, and Zero says, oh, so you've heard about that? And it's kind of goofy because I don't understand how anyone involved in this situation hasn't heard about Sigma affecting Zero or any of that relationship. I don't understand how anyone would be involved in any of this and be like, oh wait, I didn't know that Zero was originally built to destroy us. It's, again, a really odd tone. It's also kind of implied that Layer has a crush on Zero, which is just so strange to me. I mean, these are robot military people that are fighting to save humanity and save the world, and it just is really odd to me. So at the end, Sigma is saying that it was all a part of his plan, but then he dies. And then Lumina is saying it's all a part of his plan to bring in the new Reploids. And I don't really understand what anyone's plan was. I don't really understand. I mean, they want to have world domination, but I don't understand why Lumine was doing anything with Sigma. I don't understand why Sigma seems surprised to die at the end. I don't understand why anyone is surprised to see Sigma. I don't understand why anyone would be surprised that Lumine is bad, because he's clearly bad. Like, it's very simple. He's interacting with clones of Sigma at the very beginning of the game, and in his tone and demeanor is just acting bad. And I don't understand what he wanted to do other than bring in these new Reploids that are more powerful or more special because they can be clones of other Reploids. And again, if he wants to do that, why doesn't he just do that? Why doesn't he just usher in his new Reploid army and take over everything? Why did he have to do all this stuff on the moon? It's just a really odd storyline, and it just didn't really come together for me in any meaningful way. If the way I'm talking about the story sounds discombobulated, that's because the story is discombobulated. I played through the whole game, I watched every cutscene, I read all the dialogue that it gave me, and even took notes, and this is the best way I can tape together this storyline. I do find it interesting that the X series here ends with some moments that are on the moon, and I'm pretty sure Mega Man Legends 2 ends on the moon. And so it's kind of interesting that both of these Mega Man spin-off series have conclusions that are on the moon. And they're both conclusions that seem unconcluded. Mega Man Legends 2 infamously is a cliffhanger ending, but X8's storyline doesn't seem totally wrapped up nice in a box. It seems like it's definitely kind of open for more. Axel's injured at the end, and they're just kind of holding him and going down the elevator, going back, and it's really implied here more than in any other Mega Man X game that Sigma is gone for good. And in other games, they'll kind of tell us he's coming back, or tell us that, you know, X and Zero are gonna have to fight or something like that. Here, they're telling us Sigma is gone. So that's the end of Mega Man X8. That's the final storyline that we have for the Mega Man X series. Overall, it is probably a dud storyline. There's just a lot going on that just doesn't make any sense. I'm sure someone else out there could put it all together and tell me that this is a great storyline, but again, I watched everything, listened to everything, took notes, and I still don't really understand what Layer was trying to do or why anyone was surprised by any of it. There was no mystery to it. It's all very odd to me and kind of disappointing. The X series has some real high highs for its storyline. Notably, X4 has a really cool storyline that just kind of sits neatly as Mega Man X4. The conflict with the Repliforce and the Maverick Hunters is really interesting and cool. Also, X2 has some great storyline moments with Zero coming back, and X5 has an exciting storyline with the satellite going to crash into the Earth and Zero being evil. So this is a series that has good storyline moments, and it's a bummer that here, after all the effort they put into it with a new art direction and fresh music and all these things, the storyline just kind of comes together so weird and kind of just confusing and lame. So my conclusion about Mega Man X8 is that it's way better than X7. It's definitely got fun moments that Mega Man X fans will get, and Mega Man fans in general will get. There are moments where the action platforming is cool, there are moments where the boss fights are cool, and it's definitely not a game that should be ignored by Mega Man fans. The art direction is cool, particularly in the character portraits, and the music is good with the prog rock and the guitar. There's a lot to like about Mega Man X8. Unfortunately, there's a lot to not like about Mega Man X8. The pacing is rough with the rail levels. There's also a lot of menuing, going through the item shop, going through the mission complete screens, selecting your characters, both of them, selecting your operator. It's just not a very well-paced game, and there are some dud levels here. And then the levels that are good, you know, when I reflect back on it, they're not like all-time great Mega Man levels. There are some moments that are good, but none of it stands out in terms of like essential Mega Man gameplay. So at the end of the day, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Mega Man X8 a 7 out of 10. It is not a bad or terrible game by any means, but it's not a great game. If you are a Mega Man fan, I would encourage you to at least check it out and play it. It's easier to get than ever. If you are not a Mega Man fan, you can probably skip this one. I don't think it's going to get you excited about the series, and there are a lot better action platforming games in general and in the Mega Man series. So there we go. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for sticking around for these reviews, to see me review all the classic series games and now all the X series games. Next up will probably be either the Game Boy games or the Zero series games. So stick around to see what I do next. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and goodbye.